Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that was requested: how to reach out to an avoidant to get them to respond. Now, the request was about an ex, and they asked for a compilation, which I will do that eventually. But I wanted to start with an introduction of kind of some ideas that we can kind of throw out there, and your thoughts as well, all of your thoughts about what you guys feel about how to get an avoidant to respond in a particular way, especially when the situation is a little more strained, like an ex or after an argument. So that's our focus today. And actually, the first one is to keep the message somewhat low pressure. And why I said somewhat is I don't want it to just be like a, hey, how are you doing? Right? That's vague. I want the message to have some clarity while still being low pressure. We don't want it vague, though. A lot of people think low pressure means vague. Vague is not helpful because you don't get the result you're looking for. It's a waste of your time, if I'm being honest. And at the end of the day, yes, you don't want to trigger another individual, right? But you also have to focus on yourself first and foremost. And vagueness just is not good for you, right? Because the whole point of this is you guys want them to respond. And you won't get a good answer if it's vague. And so I'm going to give an example of what I believe is like a low pressure message, but it's still not vague. You can say something like, hey, just checking in, no rush to reply, right? You want to, especially if you guys are exes, you don't want them to feel pressured. And sometimes adding that can help. And then you can say, when you get a chance, let me know if you are okay. Let's say that's what you're wondering. Maybe they didn't text you for a while. Or when you get a chance, let me know if we can have a phone call. That could be an example. Or when you get a chance, let me know how you're feeling. Whatever it is. Or no rush to reply. I just wanted to let you know I miss you. It can be anything like that, but you want it to be a little more direct. The end of it must be direct. That's how I perceive it. And if you're in a relationship and it's after a fight, that's why I mentioned, like, let me know if you're okay. Or you can say, let me know if you want to talk about anything. Something of that sort, okay? The next one is taking accountability. This one's going to really help. By the way, this one, if you feel like you've tried pretty much everything and you haven't tried this one, try this one. It does help a lot. And it's hard because you might be feeling like you're taking accountability for something maybe you didn't do. And that makes sense. And you can angle it in a different way. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, let's give some examples of when this can work. This is really good after a fight or a breakup. You can say something about, how are you? I've been thinking about our recent argument and I realize the mistakes I've made. I want to try again with you. Are you open to this? So that would be like a breakup, okay? If you feel like you don't want to take accountability because you genuinely feel like you didn't do anything wrong, you can say, how are you? I've been thinking of our recent arguments and I feel like both of us have a lot to learn and I want to learn them with you. Are you open to trying again in our relationship? Because that's how I feel. Something like that. And so it's not necessarily you're taking full accountability. You're actually just saying that you have a lot to learn because we all do. Right? And that'll also help them to feel their guard down because they don't feel like they're the only person that's going to be reprimanded or getting in trouble or anything like that, right? It does really help. And so I want you guys to really consider this one. And another example could actually be, I don't want you to straight up just say, I'm sorry, because you want to have a angle at the end. You want to have a way that they can get in contact with you. So you can say, how are you? Maybe you raise your voice. I realize that I raised my voice during our argument. I'm sorry. Or I realize I didn't act that well during our breakup. I'm sorry. I still want to, be with you. Are you open to this as well? You can have it from that angle, but I don't want you to keep it, like I'd mentioned, I don't want you to keep it vague because that's a waste of your time. The next one is kind of the same thing we've been talking about, but it's just a point that I wanted to keep separate so you guys really understand. This is one of the biggest emphasis to this video, okay? And it's because it's very important. You want to be clear and direct. No matter who a person is, right? Clear and direct really helps because it avoids them giving you an ambiguous message. And if they give you an ambiguous message, even when you are clear and direct, it lets you know where they're at. It gives you two pieces of information. And that's very, very important. So let's give an example of some clear and direct communication, regardless of what stage you are in with this individual. Are you free sometime this week to talk for a few minutes? I'm open Saturday and Friday. Let me know. We're pretty specific about it. And we're going to talk about that specific point, the next point, but we're going to give more examples of direct and clear. You can mention, I feel like that argument was really difficult for me. Are you available after work today that we can discuss, right? Or you could mention, if it's been a long time since you've seen each other, I realize I still think about you and I miss you a lot. Do you feel like there's any hope that we can get back together? I want to have a conversation with you about this. Are you available sometime this week? Adding some direct clarification can really help, but it really does depend on how the relationship was. But to be very honest, I feel like if you have to tiptoe so much around a person that's already not in your life, like, what's even the point in being with them. Because if it's such a point where you have to play all these games and they're your ex, like, you might as well just let them go. And I'm not saying that's your decision, but I think your time is also precious. Like, I don't think it's helpful to beat around the bush. I understand a lot of you guys do that because you're afraid to trigger them, but just, they're already gone halfway. Like, if they're triggered, they're going to be triggered. At this point, I feel like you might as well just do what you got to do. And the other point I was mentioning is give them an easy way to respond. And I'm going to explain this. You want to do small, manageable steps that have a step-by-step built in there. So examples would be like, would Thursday or Friday work better, right? That's an example instead of let me know when you're available, because you had blocked it off, right? You mentioned would Thursday or Friday be available? Does after work today or tomorrow work? Do you want to go on a date Monday or Tuesday? Those are my times available, and I know you're available as well. You make it very clear what you're asking for. An example that's not necessarily about an ex, but let's say even in a relationship. You can mention, I want to go on a date sometime this week. Do you want to do something Saturday and Friday? Saturday or Friday. Let me know your thoughts. I'm looking at maybe going to a restaurant. It allows them to have some angle, because a date, you want them to have some involvement, which is why I gave that example. You gave some leeway for their explanation or their preference, but you still put your preference as well, because it allows them to, if you want them to take initiative, allows them to know how to do so, which is why you want to do this, okay? The next one is you do want to acknowledge their space. This is only if you feel like that's what they need. Because if it's been like 5 months, you don't need to say, hey, you might need some space. It's been long enough, right? But let's say it's after an argument, okay? Sometimes mentioning that you respect their space can be really beneficial. You can mention, I understand if you need space and I do respect that. That is completely okay. I just wanted you to message me when you're feeling a little bit better so I know if we can talk things out. Something of that sort can be beneficial. That's what this one can be, a little bit less direct, or like it's less instructional, because their need for space, you can't just be like, oh, my need for space is going to be over at 7:04 p.m., right? They do not know that. And so that's why it's a little more vague on this one. But as I mentioned, if they're your ex and you guys broke up and it's been like a year, you don't need to do this one. This one is not necessary for that particular case. Nostalgia, however, is almost very particular for exes, and that's the next point, okay? Sometimes referencing a memory can lower defenses, right? I think a lot of people know this. It is true, and a lot of times people are afraid to do this because they feel like it's very vulnerable, but they're already your ex if you're at this stage, so what do you have to lose, honestly? That's just my preference. I could be wrong. I passed by a coffee shop, for example, that we used to go, and I remember you. I wanted to let you know I still think of you fondly, and I feel like maybe we can give this relationship another chance, right? Mentioning these things that you want this relationship to be reignited to some extent can help. Some people don't like doing that, maybe because you're not ready either. And if that's the case, you can tread lightly. You can take that part off. But I am mentioning that by doing that, you might just put yourself in a more confusing cycle, right? And you don't want that. I don't want that for you, which is why I would prefer if you guys were more direct, but it's up to you. So let's summarize and then we'll wrap it up. Keep the messages low pressure, but they're still clear. Be clear and direct. Give them an easy way to respond. So you want to have like a step-by-step instruction kind of put in there. Give space, typically not needed if you guys are exes, and then use nostalgia. That one is more common with an ex. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.